The stars above Earth burned with alien fire. Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his massive warship, watching the last human defense stations crumble under his fleet's overwhelming assault. Earth hung before him like a blue marble, defenseless and broken. It had taken 3 months to crush the humans completely. 3 months of steady bombardment, ship-to-ship combat, and systematic destruction of everything humanity had built in space. Now their orbital stations were nothing but glowing debris. Their mighty space fleet was scattered wreckage floating in the void. Vextar felt satisfaction as he watched the final human battleship explode in a burst of orange flame. The Terran Defense Force had fought bravely, he admitted to himself, but bravery meant nothing against superior technology and overwhelming numbers. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "all human military assets in orbit have been eliminated. Surface bombardment can begin whenever you give the order." Below on Earth's surface, Captain Lee Dongwu received the final transmission from Orbital Command. The voice of Admiral Kim Sung-min crackled through the static-filled communication device in the underground bunker. "All stations destroyed," the Admiral said, his voice heavy with defeat. "Atmospheric bombardment beginning in 6 hours. I recommend immediate surrender. Save who you can, Captain. This war is over." Lee closed his eyes as the transmission ended. The silence in the bunker felt like the silence of a tomb. Around him, his remaining officers waited for orders that seemed impossible to give. Lieutenant Park Hana stared at her computer screen, watching red indicators show the destruction of everything they had sworn to protect. Sergeant Kim Tae-ho cleaned his rifle for the 100th time that day, even though it would be useless against alien energy weapons. Communications Officer Yoon Soo-jin monitored channels that carried nothing but alien victory broadcasts and the desperate final messages of human civilians preparing for the end. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Hegemony. They had appeared at the edge of human space 18 months ago with a simple message: surrender and serve as a client species, or face complete destruction. Earth's leaders had chosen to fight. It had been a mistake. The hegemony possessed technology that made human weapons look like stone tools. Their ships moved faster than anything humanity had ever built. Their energy shields turned aside the most powerful missiles Earth could produce. Their plasma cannons could destroy a human battleship with a single shot. Worse than their technology was their experience. The hegemony had conquered 17 species before arriving at Earth. They knew exactly how to break a civilization's will to fight. Cut the supply lines, destroy the command structure, eliminate hope. Above Earth, Vextar opened a global communication channel. His words would be translated into every human language and broadcast to every remaining settlement on the planet. People of Terra. His mechanical translator turned his alien speech into cold human words. Your military forces have been eliminated. Your orbital defenses are destroyed. Your leaders are dead or hiding in holes like scared animals. Across the planet, humans listened to the alien commander's ultimatum. In the ruins of New York, families huddled in subway tunnels. In the mountains of Tibet, soldiers prepared final, defensive positions. In the Amazon rainforest, scientists destroyed research data rather than let it fall into alien hands. You have one choice remaining, Vextar continued. Surrender now and serve the hegemony as a client species. Your lives will be spared, your children will live, you will work for us, but you will survive. The alien commander paused, letting his words sink in across the planet. Resist further and face complete extinction. We will burn your cities. We will poison your oceans. We will turn your green world into lifeless rock. This is not a threat. This is a promise based on what we have done to 16 other worlds that refused our generous offer. In the Seoul bunker, Lee Dongwu stood slowly. His hand moved to a control panel that had been installed 6 months ago. Emergency protocols that no human commander had ever hoped to use. Protocols that had been designed for the absolute worst-case scenario. "Sir?" Lieutenant Park Hana asked. "What are your orders?" Lee looked around the bunker at the faces of his officers. These were good people who had served humanity faithfully. They deserved better than this moment. They deserved a future where their children could live free. But sometimes what people deserved and what they got were very different things. Activate the Prometheus protocol, he said quietly. Send the signal to every remaining cell, every bunker, every survivor who can still receive our transmissions. Parkhana's eyes widened with shock. Sir, the Prometheus protocol was never meant to be used on Earth itself. It was designed for colony worlds facing extinction. The Prometheus protocol, Lee continued, his voice carrying across the emergency, networks that connected human resistance cells around the world, was created for situations exactly like this. When everything is lost, when all hope seems gone, when surrender means the death of everything we believe in. The Prometheus protocol had been developed in secret by human military planners who understood that Earth might one day face an enemy, too powerful to defeat through conventional means. It was not a weapon in any traditional sense. It was something far more dangerous to an occupying force. It was a promise that humans would never truly surrender, no matter what the cost. Listen carefully, Lee broadcast to every human who could hear him. The aliens think this war is over because they destroyed our ships and bombed our cities. They think we will give up because we are outgunned and outnumbered. Above them, Vextar began his bombardment of military targets on the surface. Plasma beams reached down from space to turn human army bases into glass craters. Nuclear power plants were surgically destroyed to eliminate Earth's energy infrastructure. Communication. Satellites were picked off one by one. The alien commander was confident this would be like every other conquest, a few days of overwhelming force, followed by surrender and the long process of integrating another species into the hegemony's vast empire. He had no understanding of what the Prometheus protocol really meant. No comprehension of what happened when humanity's greatest strength was unleashed without restraint. They do not know us. Lee continued his broadcast as explosions lit up the sky above Seoul. They do not understand what makes us human. They think breaking our tools means breaking our spirit. The truth was simpler and more terrifying than the aliens could imagine. Humans had a saying that their xenobiologists had recorded but never truly understood. When the pressure is greatest, diamonds are formed. The hegemony was about to learn that some pressures create more than diamonds. Some pressures create revolution. 6 months had passed since the aliens thought they won the war. Commander Vextar stood in his command room looking at reports that made no sense to him. His soldiers were dying every day. The humans were supposed to be beaten. They were supposed to give up. But they did not give up. Deep under the city of Seoul, Colonel Choi Min-ho sat with his team in the old subway tunnels. The tunnels were dark and cold. Water dripped from the ceiling. But this was home now. This was where the real war happened. The aliens still do not understand us, Choi told his people. Around him sat 20 fighters, men and women who had lost everything but refused to lose hope. They think we need big factories and supply trucks like they do. They do not know that we can make weapons from anything. Sergeant Nam Ji-hai held up a strange-looking gun. It was made from parts of alien weapons mixed with human tools. The metal was rough and ugly, but it worked better than anything the humans had before the war. I took the power core from their flying scout, she said with a smile. Then I connected it to a car battery and some copper wire. Now it shoots energy bolts that can punch through their armor. The other fighters nodded. This was how they survived. When the aliens destroyed their weapons, the humans built new ones. When the aliens cut their supply lines, the humans found new ways to get what they needed. Above ground, the aliens walked through the empty streets. They thought they controlled the city, but they were wrong. Lieutenant Colonel Han So-young moved through the ruins like a ghost. Her team of 15 fighters followed behind her. They knew every broken building. They knew every pile of rubble. Target, approaching from the north, whispered Private Lee Kyung-soo through his radio. He watched from a window in a destroyed office building. 3 alien soldiers walked down the street. They carried big energy rifles. They wore thick armor. They thought they were safe. They were wrong. Han So-young made a hand signal. Her fighters moved into position. They had done this many times before. The aliens never learned. The attack was over in 30 seconds. The alien soldiers never knew what hit them. By the time their backup arrived, the humans were gone. Only empty streets remained. In the alien command center, Vextar listened to another report of dead soldiers. His aide, Major Kethran, looked worried. "Commander, we have lost 47 patrols this month," Kethran said. "The humans attack and then disappear. We cannot find their bases. We cannot stop their attacks." "How is this possible?" Vextar asked. "We destroyed their army, we bombed their cities, we control all the important places." Science Officer Yelthar looked at his datapad. "Sir, I think we made a mistake. We studied 17 species before we came here. All of them fought the same way. Big armies, clear battles. When we destroyed their armies, they surrendered." "But humans are different?" Vexitar asked. "Yes, sir. When we destroyed their big army, they made many small armies. When we took their weapons factories, they made weapons in basements and tunnels. They do not fight like the other species." Vextar felt a cold feeling in his chest. This was not supposed to happen. Deep in the tunnels, engineer Kim Woo-jin worked, with Dr. Oh Yoon-soo in their hidden workshop. They had been working for 18 hours straight. Around them were tables covered with alien technology, pieces of destroyed robots, broken energy weapons, computer chips from alien vehicles. "I think I understand how their shields work," Dr. Oh said. She held up a small blue crystal. "This generates the energy field. But look what happens when I change the frequency." She connected the crystal to a human radio. The crystal began to glow. Then it exploded. Kim Woo-jin laughed. "So if we broadcast the right radio signal, we can make their shields blow up?" "Exactly. We can turn their own technology against them." This was happening all over the world. In Tokyo, humans learned to hack alien computers. In London, they figured out how to copy alien metals. In New York, they built flying machines from crashed alien ships. The aliens had made a big mistake. They thought destroying human factories would stop human technology. But humans did not need factories. They needed ideas, and ideas could not be bombed. Back in the Seoul tunnels, Choi Min-ho received a message from teams around the world. The news was good. "Berlin reports they have working energy shields," said Communications Officer Yoon Soo-jin. "Cairo has built 6 new flying vehicles. Moscow says they can now make alien armor using scrap metal." "What about the big picture?" Choi asked. "Sir, we are not just surviving, we are getting stronger. Every day we learn more about their technology. Every day we build better weapons." Above ground, another alien patrol had gone missing. This time, it was a full squad of 12 soldiers with an armored vehicle. They had simply vanished in the middle of the day. Vexitar called an emergency meeting. His officers looked scared. "The situation is getting worse," he told them. "We are losing more soldiers every week. The humans are using weapons we have never seen before." "How are they building these things?" "Sir," said Intelligence Officer Mortek, "we think they are using our own technology against us. Every time we lose equipment, it disappears. We think they are studying it and copying it. But that should take years of research. Our scientists need special tools and laboratories to work with this technology. Human scientists are working faster than ours, sir. Much faster. We think they are not trying to understand the technology perfectly. They are just trying to make it work." Vextar realized they faced an enemy unlike any other. Previous species had tried to match alien technology with their own. It never worked. But humans were not trying to match alien technology. They were stealing it and making it better. In the tunnels, the humans were planning their next move. They had weapons now. They had shields. They had vehicles that could fly. But most importantly, they had hope. "The aliens think we are beaten," Choi told his fighters. "They think hiding underground means we are weak. They do not understand that we are not hiding. We are preparing." The underground war had taught humanity something important. When everything was taken from them, they did not become weaker. They became more creative, more dangerous, more determined. The aliens had won the first battle. But the war was just beginning, and humans were very good at learning from their mistakes. 1 year had passed since Earth fell to the aliens, but something impossible was happening across human space. On every world where humans lived, the same thing was occurring at the same time. Rebellions were starting everywhere. On Kepler Station, Administrator Ro Seung-hwan sat in his office looking at reports from across the galaxy. For months he had pretended to work for the aliens. He organized work teams. He sent them resources. He acted like a good, defeated human leader. The aliens thought he was an example of how humans should behave after losing a war. They did not. No, he was the leader of the biggest secret army in galactic history. Phase 3 is ready, reported Captain Lim Da-eun. She spoke quietly into a hidden communicator. The device looked like a simple calculator, but it connected to secret networks across 50 star systems. All colony ships are in position. The Titan yards are back under our control. Ro Seung-hwan smiled. The aliens had made their biggest mistake when they thought human surrender meant human defeat. Instead, humans had spent the year preparing for this moment. Across the galaxy, human colonies that had given up were actually building the largest secret military force ever created. While the aliens watched Earth and its stubborn fighters, the rest of humanity was preparing for war. Commander Park Jin-woo floated in space near the asteroid belt around Seoul. Behind him was a sight that would have shocked the aliens. The UES Indomitable hung in space like a metal mountain. It was the first of humanity's new warships. The ship looked nothing like the vessels that had died defending Earth. It was built in hidden shipyards, using a mix of human and alien technology. Every part had been designed by humans who knew they had only one chance to get things right. "All ships report ready, sir," said Major Yu Hanul from her station. "We have 47 heavy cruisers, 231 destroyers, and 612 fighters. Every crew member volunteered for this mission." Park Jin-woo looked at the display screen. Each dot of light represented a ship full of humans who had lost their homes, their families, their worlds to the aliens. Now they were ready to take everything back. The ship's computer spoke in a calm voice. It sounded like Dr. Jung Mi-young, the scientist who had died saving human research data during the First War. "Analysis complete," the computer said. "Chance of mission success is now 73%. Recommend immediate attack." The computer was more than just a machine. It contained the knowledge and memories of thousands of human scientists and soldiers who had died in the war. In a way, they were all still fighting. What the aliens could not understand was how humans worked together. The aliens saw individuals making separate choices. Humans had become something more. They were like a single organism with billions of parts all working toward the same goal. On his command ship, Vextar was reading reports that made no sense. "Impossible," he said to his staff. "We destroyed their entire space navy. Where are these ships coming from?" His intelligence officer looked worried. "Sir, our scans show these are not rebuilt ships. These are completely new designs. They use technology combinations that our scientists said could never work." Vextar studied the images of human ships. They looked strange, organic, like they had grown instead of being built. Human and alien technology had been mixed together in ways that broke every rule of engineering. "How many ships do they have?" he asked. "Sir, we count over 1,000 combat vessels, and more are appearing every hour." Vextar felt fear for the first time since the war began. His race had conquered 17 species. Each time had followed the same pattern: destroy the enemy's main fleet, occupy their important worlds, wait for surrender. It had always worked. But humans were different. When their main fleet was destroyed, they built a bigger one in secret. When their worlds were occupied, they used that as cover to prepare for revenge. On Earth, Captain Lee Dong-woo climbed out of the tunnels for the first time in a year. The surface was scarred and broken, but it was still home. Around him, thousands of human fighters emerged from underground hideouts. "Sir," said Lieutenant Park Hana, "we're receiving signals from the fleet. They're requesting permission to begin the counterattack." Lee Dong-woo looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, human ships were gathering. Ships built by people who had learned to turn defeat into victory. People who had taken the worst thing that ever happened to them and made it into strength. "Tell them they have permission to begin," he said. Tell them Earth is ready to be free again. In space, the human fleet began to move. Each ship carried weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Energy cannons that fired in patterns too complex to predict. Missiles that could think and learn during flight. Shields that grew stronger when attacked. But the most dangerous weapon was the humans themselves. Every person on those ships had lived through the worst year of their lives. They had seen their civilization destroyed. They had watched friends and family die. They had been forced to live like animals in caves and tunnels, and they had survived. More than survived. They had learned and grown and become something new. Admiral Song Hyun-ki stood on the bridge of the UES Phoenix. Through the window, he could see Earth growing larger as the fleet approached. The planet looked small and damaged, but it was humanity's birthworld. It was worth any sacrifice. All ships, he said into his communicator. This is Admiral Song. 1 year ago, we lost everything. Our cities, our fleets, our freedom. Today, we take it all back. Across the fleet, thousands of humans listened to his words. In engine rooms and weapon stations and medical bays, people who had spent a year preparing for this moment made final checks on their equipment. Today, the Admiral continued, we show the galaxy what humans become when we have nothing left to lose. We show them that breaking us only makes us stronger. On the alien ships, warning alarms began to sound. Sensors showed impossible readings. More human ships than should exist. Weapons that violated known physics. An enemy that should have been defeated, but was stronger than ever. Vextar looked at his tactical display and realized that everything his people thought they knew about warfare was wrong. The humans had not just survived their defeat, they had used it to become something entirely new. Sir, his aide said with fear in his voice, what are your orders? Vextar had no answer. His race had spent thousands of years learning how to defeat other species, but no one had ever taught them how to fight an enemy that grew stronger when it was destroyed. The awakening was complete. Humanity had learned what it could become under pressure. Now the galaxy would learn too. The Battle of Proxima Centauri lasted 14 hours and changed space warfare forever. Admiral Song Hyun-ki commanded the human fleet from the bridge of the UES Phoenix. He watched as everything the aliens knew about fighting became useless against humanity's new way of war. Enemy ships are responding to our main attack, reported Captain Ko Yu-jin from her station. They are moving their reserve fleet exactly where we predicted they would. The aliens did not understand that humans had been studying them for over a year. Every battle, every occupation, every conversation had been a chance to learn about alien tactics and weaknesses. Execute Plan 17, Admiral Song commanded. Across space, human ships began to move in ways that made no sense to alien commanders. Instead of staying in tight formations, they scattered into patterns that looked random but were actually carefully planned. The humans had turned their biggest weakness into their greatest strength. The aliens relied on mathematical precision and proven strategies that had worked for thousands of years. Human commanders were making up new tactics in the middle of battle. Vice Admiral Kang So-young led her squadron in a maneuver that broke every rule of space combat. Her ships dove toward the enemy at angles that should have made them easy targets. But when the aliens fired, the human ships were not where the targeting computers expected them to be. Direct hit on enemy flagship, reported her tactical officer. Their shields are down. Good. Now let's try something they've never seen before. Kang So-young's ships suddenly changed direction in ways that should have been impossible. They had learned to use alien gravity generators as weapons, creating artificial gravity wells that pulled enemy ships out of position. On Earth, the liberation of the surface began with coordinated strikes across every continent. Colonel Choi, Minho's underground forces came up from tunnel systems that now connected the entire planet. They hit alien bases with timing that seemed impossible without alien communication networks, but humans were using alien networks. They had not just stolen alien technology. They had learned to hack into alien computers and use their own systems against them. All teams report successful strikes, announced Major An Jae-hyun from the reclaimed Seoul Command Center. Enemy defensive positions are falling faster than they can call for help. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that had evolved beyond recognition. Humans were not just using better tactics, they were rewriting the basic rules of how wars were fought. In space, Captain Lee Subin commanded a destroyer squadron that fought like a pack of hunting animals. Her ships moved together with coordination that seemed telepathic, but it was not magic. It was the result of AI systems that had learned to think as a group while still making individual decisions. "Target the command ship's communication array," she ordered. "If we can cut their coordination, the whole formation will fall apart." Her ships attacked with precision that amazed alien observers. Every shot hit exactly where it was supposed to. Every movement supported the others. It was like watching a dance of death performed by machines that could think. "Their adaptation rate is beyond all our models," Vextar's science officer reported. The alien commander stood in his control room watching his forces be systematically destroyed by an enemy that should not exist. "They are not just learning from our tactics," the science officer continued. "They are predicting what we will do before we do it." Vextar studied the tactical display. Human ships were everywhere, moving in patterns that hurt his eyes to watch. Every time his forces tried a new strategy, the humans had a counter-strategy ready. "How is this possible?" he asked. "We have thousands of years of military experience. They have been fighting in space for less than a century." "Sir, I think they are not trying to match our experience," his aide replied. "They are using our experience against us. Every time we do something predictable, they take advantage of it." The counterstrike was revealing something terrifying about humanity. They had not just survived extinction. They had transformed into something that made extinction impossible. On the surface of Earth, human forces retook city after city with speed that shocked their alien occupiers. The underground networks had become more than just hiding places. They were the circulatory system of a planetary organism dedicated to freedom. Engineer Kim Woo-jin emerged from the Seoul tunnels carrying a weapon that looked like it belonged in a nightmare. It was made from pieces of alien technology held together with human creativity and desperation. "The energy core is from their heavy tank," he explained to amazed soldiers. "The targeting system is from their fighter craft. The trigger is from a human hunting rifle. It fires bursts that can punch through their strongest armor." This was happening everywhere. Human weapons that should not work were proving more effective than anything either side had used before. Necessity had made humans into inventors who could build miracles from scrap metal. But the most shocking change was in human coordination. Armies that had never trained together were fighting with unity that amazed professional soldiers. General Park Hae-jin commanded forces across 3 continents from his mobile command post. His orders reached every unit instantly through communication. Networks that used alien satellites against their builders. "The aliens built their networks to control us," he explained to visiting reporters. "Instead, we use their networks to coordinate our liberation." In space, the battle was entering its final phase. The alien fleet, once the terror of 17 species, was being destroyed by ships that fought like nothing in their databases. "Sir, we have lost 60% of our vessels," reported Vextar's tactical officer. "Request permission to withdraw." Vextar looked at the display one more time. The human fleet was not just winning. They were teaching a lesson about what happened when a species was pushed beyond its breaking point. "Granted," he said quietly. "Signal retreat to all remaining ships." But as his fleet began to withdraw, Vextar realized that retreat would not save them. The humans had changed the rules of war itself. Victory and defeat no longer meant what they used to mean. Admiral Song watched the alien fleet begin to run away. Around him, his officers celebrated the victory. But Song knew this was more than just a military triumph. "Sir?" asked Captain Ko, Yujin, "what are your orders for the fleeing enemy ships?" Song thought for a moment. The old humanity would have pursued and destroyed every enemy ship. But pressure had taught them to think beyond simple revenge. "Let them go," he said. "Let them carry word back to their leaders about what they faced here. Let them tell the galaxy what humans become when survival depends on evolution." The counterstrike had succeeded beyond every hope. But more importantly, It had shown humanity what they could accomplish when they stopped trying to fight like other species and started fighting like themselves. The war was far from over. But for the first time, since the aliens arrived, humans were not just surviving. They were defining what survival meant. 2 years after first contact, the galactic hegemony faced a reality that challenged everything they understood about how species developed and how wars were won. In the council chambers of their capital world, Supreme Commander Zefkol read reports that seemed like impossible fiction. The humans have established 47 new colonies in systems we classified as uninhabitable, his chief analyst reported. Their terraforming technology now exceeds our own capabilities. They are not just recovering their previous territory, they are expanding faster than our scouts can map. The numbers made no sense. Species were supposed to become weaker after losing a major war. They were supposed to spend generations rebuilding what was destroyed. But humans had become stronger and more capable than they were before the conflict began. On New Sol, established in a star system the hegemony had dismissed as worthless rock and gas, Governor Kim Jun-ho supervised construction projects that redefined what was possible. The planet's surface showed cities that seemed to grow naturally, powered by energy sources that combined human innovation with alien science in ways no hegemony engineer had imagined. The manufacturing centers are producing 20% more than Earth's peak industrial capacity, reported his deputy, Director Bae Min-young, and we are using half the raw materials. Every day we discover new ways to make their technology work better. The transformation was not just about better machines and weapons. Humans under extreme pressure had developed abilities that went beyond their original limitations. Captain Shin Dong-hyuk commanded space fleets that moved with coordination impossible for individual minds to achieve, while engineer Park So-jin designed systems that actually improved themselves through use. But what disturbed the hegemony most was humanity's diplomatic revolution. The species they had once conquered were starting to question why they served the hegemony at all. Ambassador Lee Young-ho stood before the Council of Species that had been the hegemony's client races for centuries. These were beings who had served as soldiers, workers, and servants for so long they had forgotten what independence meant. The Centauri Republic has voted to join the human coalition, he announced to representatives of 17 different species. They cite our technology-sharing agreements and mutual defense treaties as primary factors in their decision. Ambassador Seo-ji-won addressed the Rigel Assembly, a gathering of species that controlled important trade routes. Her words carried across the galaxy through networks the hegemony could no longer control. The hegemony offers order through fear and domination, she said calmly. Humanity offers growth through cooperation and partnership. We do not ask you to serve us. We ask you to join us in building something better. Species that had served the hegemony for centuries were abandoning their masters. Not because they were conquered by human armies, but because they saw what humans could accomplish when they treated other beings as equals rather than subjects. The Altarian Mining Guild was the first to switch sides. Their representative, a crystal-based life form, named Quelneth, explained their decision to shocked hegemony officials. For 300 years, we have given the hegemony 90% of our mineral production. Quelneth's translated words echoed through the council chamber. In return, we received protection and basic technology. The humans offer us 40% production quotas and access to terraforming equipment that will let us colonize gas giant moons. But you have contracts with the hegemony, protested Trade Minister Vorthak. Legal obligations that span centuries. Quelneth's crystalline form shifted in what humans had learned was their species' equivalent of laughter. The humans taught us something interesting about contracts. They are only valid when both parties benefit. When one party becomes strong enough to help instead of just take, the relationship changes. Supreme Commander Zefkol faced a strategic nightmare that challenged his entire understanding of galactic politics. Species were not just leaving the hegemony. They were actively working against it. The Rigel Assembly had voted to share their navigation data with human exploration fleets. The Vegan Collective was providing biological research that helped humans colonize worlds faster. Even the warlike Draco clans were offering military assistance against hegemony forces. How does a species become more powerful through defeat than they were through victory? Zefkol asked his advisors during an emergency strategy meeting. His counselors had no answer that made sense. The hegemony's models of species development assumed that pressure created compliance and weakness. They had never imagined pressure could create transcendence and strength. Science Minister Yorthkal reviewed data that hurt his mind to contemplate. Their learning curve exceeds all known biological parameters, he reported. Human scientists are making breakthrough discoveries faster than our research institutes, despite having access to our technology for less than 2 years. Their military adapts to new situations in real time, added Defense Coordinator Mexeval. Every battle teaches them something new. Every defeat makes them stronger. Every victory gives them confidence to try things that should be impossible. But the most disturbing development was humanity's approach to diplomacy and governance. The human coalition was not an empire built on conquest. It was a voluntary association of species working toward common goals. President Choi Yoon-jung addressed the growing coalition from her office on New Earth, a planet terraformed using techniques that combined human engineering with Altarian crystal technology and vegan biological systems. "We learned something important from the hegemony's attack," she said during a broadcast that reached billions of beings across thousands of worlds. "We learned that our greatest strength was not our weapons or our ships. It was our ability to adapt and grow when everything seemed lost." Her words were translated into hundreds of languages and transmitted to species that had never heard of humanity 3 years earlier. Now they were listening to human ideas about cooperation, growth, and mutual benefit. "The hegemony taught us that pressure does not have to break you," President Choi continued. "It can make you stronger. It can make you better. It can make you into something new." The paradigm shift was complete. Humanity had proven that defeat could lead to victory, that pressure could create strength, and that cooperation was more powerful than domination. But the most revolutionary idea was simpler than all the advanced technology and military innovations. Humans had discovered that treating other beings with respect and offering genuine partnership was more effective than fear and force. Supreme Commander Zefkol realized that his civilization faced an enemy unlike any in their history. The hegemony had learned to conquer through superior technology and overwhelming force. But humans had learned something more dangerous. They had learned to win hearts and minds. The new paradigm was spreading across the galaxy like a virus. Species that had never questioned the hegemony's authority were asking why they served beings who took everything and gave nothing in return. For the first time in centuries, the hegemony was not facing a military threat. They were facing an idea, and ideas, as humans had proven, could be more powerful than any weapon ever built. 5 years after the war's end, Galaxy had been transformed in ways no one could have predicted. In the rebuilt halls of Earth's Global Assembly, President Choi Yoon-jung stood before a gathering that represented every known intelligent species in local space. The room buzzed with translated conversations in hundreds of languages. "The hegemony taught us something invaluable," she said, her words broadcast to billions of beings across thousands of worlds. "They showed us what we could become when everything we thought we knew was stripped away. They forced us to discover who we really were underneath all our assumptions about ourselves." The irony was not lost on anyone present. The hegemony's attempt to destroy humanity had created something unprecedented in galactic history. For the first time, a truly cooperative interstellar civilization existed. Admiral Park Hae-jin now commanded fleets that included former hegemony species as equal partners. When visiting dignitaries asked about humanity's transformation, he often gave tours of his flagship, the UES Unity. The ship's crew included humans, Altarians, vegans, and even former hegemony soldiers who had switched sides. "We learned that our greatest strength was not our technology or our fighting ability," he explained to a group of diplomats from the Outer Rim territories. "It was our capacity to become whatever survival required, and then choose to become something better than just survivors." The human colonies that now dotted the galaxy were more than just territorial expansion. Each one was a laboratory for new possibilities, new ways of organizing society, new approaches to technology, new forms of cooperation between species that had never worked together before. On Kepler Prime, humans and Altarians had created mining operations that actually improved planets instead of destroying them. On Vega 7, human medical knowledge combined with local biological expertise had eliminated diseases that had plagued multiple species for millennia. Dr. Yang Su-min led the Galactic Research Consortium from her laboratory complex on Titan. Her team included scientists from 12 different species, all working on projects that would have been impossible for any single civilization to complete alone. Pressure does not just create diamonds, she explained to her mixed species research team during their daily briefing. Under the right conditions, pressure can create entirely new forms of matter. Humanity under pressure became something that had never existed before in galactic history. Her research had unlocked the scientific principles behind humanity's transformation. Extreme stress, combined with the right mindset and sufficient resources, could accelerate evolution in ways that normally took millions of years. The key was not just surviving the pressure, Dr. Yang continued. It was choosing how to respond to it. We could have become bitter and vengeful. Instead, we chose to become better and stronger. Even former hegemony leaders found themselves seeking human guidance. Vextar, the commander who had led the original invasion of Earth, now served as a strategic advisor to the Coalition Defense Force. He worked alongside General Kim Tae-young to develop defensive strategies that protected worlds rather than conquered them. Your species taught us something we had forgotten in thousands of years of conquest, Vextar admitted during one of their planning sessions. His translation device rendered his complex thoughts into human language. We believed that strength and cooperation were opposites. We thought power required domination. You proved that true power comes from partnership. The transformation had not been easy for former hegemony species. Centuries of authoritarian rule had left many of them unsure how to function in a cooperative society. But humans had developed programs to help with the transition. Integration specialist Lee Min-jung ran centers on dozens of worlds where former hegemony citizens learned about concepts like democracy, individual rights, and voluntary cooperation. The process was slow and sometimes frustrating, but it worked. Freedom is not something you can give to people, she often told her students. It is something they must learn to take for themselves. Our job is to show them that it is possible. The most remarkable change was philosophical rather than technological. Humanity had demonstrated that beings under ultimate pressure could choose transcendence over mere survival. They could choose to help others rather than just help themselves. Cure. Hegemony still existed, but it was shrinking every year. More species left to join the coalition. Fewer worlds accepted hegemony protection. The old system of domination and fear was being replaced by something based on mutual benefit and respect. Supreme Commander Zefkol had been replaced by a council system that included representatives from every remaining hegemony world. Even the former conquerors were learning to cooperate rather than command. We spent millennia believing that the strong should rule the weak, former Science Minister Yorthkal said during a coalition conference on governmental systems. Humans showed us that making others stronger makes you stronger too. As president, Choi concluded her address to the Galactic Assembly. She looked out at an audience that represented the first truly voluntary interstellar civilization in recorded history. Beings who had chosen to work together rather than being forced to serve. They assumed it was over when they saw us fall, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of known space. They thought pressure would break us into pieces. Instead, we discovered what humans become when everything depends on who we choose to be. The audience listened in respectful silence. These were beings who had seen their own worlds transformed by human ideas about cooperation and growth. They understood the significance of what had happened. The hegemony was right about one thing, President Choi continued. The war did end everything. It ended the old galaxy where the strong dominated the weak. It ended the idea that conquest was the only path to security. It ended the belief that different species could not work together as equals. She paused, looking around the great hall at faces and forms representing dozens of intelligent species. In its place, we built something new. Not a human empire, but a true coalition. Not conquest, but cooperation. Not domination, but partnership. We learned that pressure does not have to create victims. The applause that followed was unlike anything heard before in galactic history. It was the sound of beings who had chosen freedom over security, growth over stability, hope over fear. Pressure can create heroes, President Choi said as the applause died down. And sometimes, if we are very lucky and very brave, it can create something even better than heroes. It can create hope. The words echoed through the assembly hall and across the galaxy. On thousands of worlds, beings who had lived their entire lives under the rule of stronger species heard a message they had never dared to believe. Change was possible, freedom was possible, a better future was possible. In the months that followed, the transformation accelerated. The Outer Rim Confederacy, a group of species that had remained neutral during the war, voted to join the coalition. The Spiral Arm Trading Guild opened their jumpgate networks to coalition ships. Even some core hegemony worlds began to question why they still served leaders who offered only the promise of order through fear. Captain Shin Dong-hyuk commanded one of the exploration fleets that pushed into previously unknown regions of space. His crew was a mix of humans and aliens working together to map new star systems and make contact with species that had never encountered galactic civilization. Long-range sensors are detecting artificial structures around the fourth planet, reported his science officer, a Vegan named Zephyra, whose species had joined the coalition 2 years earlier. The energy signatures suggest an industrial civilization. Any signs of aggression? Shin asked. First contact protocols had been completely rewritten after humanity's experience with the hegemony. The coalition approached new species as potential partners, not potential subjects. Negative, Captain. If anything, they seem to be trying to hide from us. Shin nodded. Many species had learned to fear contact with spacefaring civilizations. The galaxy's history was full of stories about advanced species conquering primitive ones. Open a channel, he ordered. All languages, all frequencies. Let them know we come in peace. The message that went out was unlike anything the hegemony had ever sent to a new species. Instead of demands for surrender, it was an invitation to friendship. Instead of threats, it offered help. Instead of conquest, it promised cooperation. Back on Earth, the city of Seoul had been rebuilt in ways that honored both its human heritage and its role as the birthplace of the resistance. The old subway tunnels where Colonel Choi Min-ho had planned the liberation were now a museum visited by beings from across the galaxy. Choi himself, now promoted to general, often gave tours to visitors who wanted to understand how the transformation had begun. We learned something important down in those tunnels, he told a group of young hegemony refugees who were studying human history. We learned that when you have nothing left to lose, you discover what you are truly capable of. The refugees listened, with fascination. They had grown up believing that resistance to superior force was impossible. Human history proved otherwise. But the most important lesson, Choi continued as they walked through the preserved command center, was not about fighting. It was about hope. Even when everything seemed lost, we never stopped believing we could build